Subscribe and turn on the bell for notifications. Belle Gunness.
Our story begins in a quiet corner of Norway in 1859, a place far removed from the chaos of the modern world. Nestled among rolling hills and icy fjords, a small, beautiful girl was born. She was named Brynhild. Life in her small village was beautiful, but not without hardship, shaped by the unforgiving winters and the unrelenting demands of survival. Brynhild, like many children of her time, grew up knowing hardship intimately. Her family was poor, struggling to make ends meet in a society that offered few opportunities for those of lower class. She worked on a small farm with her father, gaining knowledge and strength. Brynhild dreamed of a better life, a life free from toil and filled with promise. When she was old enough, she set her sights across the ocean to a land she had only heard about in stories. America. The land of opportunity didn't just promise wealth, it promised reinvention. Brynhild stepped off the ship and onto American soil. She was no longer the poor farm girl from her small, rustic village in Norway. Here, she became Belle Gunness. She found work as a domestic servant and later in a butcher shop. But Belle's ambitions stretched far beyond scrubbing floors or carving meat. She wanted more, much more. Belle Gunness had a seemingly unfortunate life once reaching adulthood, losing her husbands to accidents and her homes and business being burnt to ashes. She would lose her children, even in infancy, to illnesses. An unverified story tells us that when Gunness was 18, she was pregnant with her first child. The supposed father must have had something against either her or the fact that he got her pregnant. He kicked her in the stomach, unknown if repeatedly, and Gunness had a miscarriage. Her first baby, gone. A few years later, after the incident, in 1881, she moved to the United States, Chicago, Illinois, to start a new life with her sister and brother-in-law. Born and raised in Norway, she took a liking to Chicago. Her sister lived in a Scandinavian-rich area which felt welcoming and cured her homesickness. In 1884, Belle married Mads Sorensen, a fellow Norwegian immigrant. Belle and Mads began building a sweet life together. Having 4 kids and opening a confectionery store, the couple dreamed of prosperity, although fate seemed to have other plans. Unfortunately, she lost 2 more of her children while they were still in infancy to colitis, inflammation of the large intestine. As if losing children wasn't enough, her candy shop as well as her home went up in flames and burned to the ground. Sorensen and Gunness were devastated, but came out of both incidents unscathed. Belle was not left destitute. The store was insured and so was her husband, Mads. A substantial payout from both policies provided Belle with the financial stability she desperately desired to live out a new life. To those around her, she was a grieving widow. But to Belle, this was a step forward. After purchasing a new residence with the insurance money they received from the fires, Sorensen fell ill. He came home one day and complained of a headache. Gunness laid him down and provided him medicine, quinine powder. She left him to rest while she made dinner, only to return to a body. Mads Sorensen was dead. In 1902, with her newfound wealth, Belle purchased a farm in LaPorte, Indiana. She quickly remarried to Peter Gunness, a widower with a baby girl. Life on the farm seemed idyllic, at least for a time. Although she had moved away from Chicago, it seemed the bad omen moved with her. Peter had gone off to work one day and left his infant daughter with Belle to care for. Upon arriving home, Peter was met with Belle and a dead infant. The cause of death is unknown, but how was it following Belle around like a looming shadow? Only 8 months after his daughter's death, Peter was killed in a bizarre accident. It was ruled an accident by authorities. Belle made the statement that a meat grinder had fallen from a high shelf and hit Peter in the head, causing his death. Although ruled an accident, it was originally a suspected murder, but nothing came of the case. No one dared question Belle. She was a grieving widow, after all. Jenny Olson, the eldest adopted daughter under Belle, started whispering to her schoolmates and spreading rumors about her own family. Mama killed Papa, she would tell them, and word got out. Gunness's neighbors had gotten wind of the rumors. Shortly after, Jenny was sent off to college in California. Or was she? Following Peter's death and Jenny's departure, Belle's farm became a revolving door of eligible bachelors. In 1905, she placed ads in the Norwegian-speaking section of newspapers, seeking companionship and promising a bright future on her farm. And men came, eager to start anew with the charming woman that she was. The ad read out, "Personal, comely widow who owns a large farm in one of the finest districts in LaPorte County, Indiana, desires to make the acquaintance of a gentleman equally well provided, with the view of joining fortunes. No replies by letter considered unless sender is willing to follow answer with personal visit. Triflers need not reply." A man from Wisconsin answered to the ad, Henry Gerhold. He was a farmhand, and after arriving to the Gunness home, he wrote to his family saying he was healthy, that he liked the farm, and asked his family to send over seed potatoes. The family grew concerned after never receiving letters from him again, and contacted Gunness asking what had happened. She wrote back saying he went off with horse traders to Chicago. Another similar occurrence happened not too long after this one. John Moe from Minnesota. He seemingly disappeared after moving. He was never seen nor heard of ever again. Gunness removed her personal ad from the paper. In 1907, Gunness hired a farmhand who was handy as a carpenter as well, Ray Lamphere. An odd job she would give him was digging small holes around the farm, predominantly the pig pens. She kept him around for a while, and it's suspected that after working alongside each other for some time, they grew attached and became lovers. But not long after, she sent him off, realizing he had no money. He grew angry and threatened to burn her house down. Out of fear, she reported the threat to the police, but nothing could be done, all but keep an eye on Lamphere. Gunness reopened the personal ads. A man of the name Andrew Helgeline from North Dakota was a wheat farmer who answered to Gunness's ad in the paper. They wrote back and forth consistently, telling each other how much they yearned for each other, to be together, to start a life together, to grow old together. He made his journey down to Indiana from North Dakota and told no one. He brought cash and kept the move a secret, something Gunness had asked him to do. They got married in 1908, but just like her past suitors, nobody heard from him ever again. Azel Helgeline, Andrew's brother, was not one to accept that Andrew would stop writing him. He was persistent in contacting Gunness, asking where he had gone, but no reply was given. Azel made the decision to make the same journey his brother did and made his way to Indiana to find out in person what had happened. Upon arrival to the Gunness farm, it was burned to ashes, and all that remained was rubble. Belle Gunness was found in the basement without a head, laying lifeless with her 3 remaining children, all burned with the house. Ray Lamphere, the past lover and hired farmhand, was the first suspect of the possible murder and definite arson. This was no accident. He was sent to prison for charges of arson, the authorities remembering his threats. He died in his prison cell 3 years later of tuberculosis, an infection in the lungs. He never confessed with interrogation, and never confessed before passing. What he did say, we don't know. The police began an investigation of the farm to find out what happened. They searched what remained of the house and found the belongings of many men. Watches, coats, trunks or suitcases, money. But when leaving, these are things you bring with you, right? It was as if they never left. They scoured the property and found fresh earth all around the farm, most of which with the pigs. The holes Ray Lamphere was hired to dig were covered. They dug them back up and found gunny sacks under trash and old mattresses. Upon opening one, they were horrified to find dismembered body parts, hands, feet, and torsos. They found more, opened them, and found heads. Some bodies were tested and were positive with traces of poison, while others were more obvious. Signs of blunt force trauma to the head and gashes down their faces and bodies. The only thing all of the bodies had in common was dismemberment by axe. Azel Helgelien was granted permission by the sheriff to possibly aid in identifying any of the heads. One of them he could confirm. It was his brother Andrew. Another confirmed by the authorities was Jenny Olsen, the adopted daughter who was said to have been sent off to California for college. Some say Gunness and Lamphere were a murder couple. Others believe it was just Lamphere, and the third party believing it was all Gunness. Majority of the evidence found and patterns tell us it was all Belle Gunness. She was the killer. From the very beginning, it was her. After her miscarriage at 18, the father died of stomach cancer 3 months after the incident. But with how it changed her, was he poisoned as well? Mad Sorensen was poisoned. Peter Gunness was murdered. Jenny Olsen was poisoned. Henry Gerhold, John Moe, Charles Erdman, Herman Kennitzer, Ole Budsberg, Andrew Helgelien, George Barry. All for what? For money. With insurance on all of these men, and not just the men, but property as well. $3,500 for the candy shop, $1,500 for the house with Mads, $8,000 for Mads, $4,000 for Peter, $5,000 for Charles, $5,000 for Herman, $2,000 for Ole, $1,500 for John, $7,000 for Andrew, $1,500 for George, $1,000 for Henry. These are the only bodies that were identified. Records say she killed upward of 40 people. Belle Gunness killed for money. She made an approximate total of $78,000 in her time, which would equal to about $1.8 million today in 2025. Was darkness always a part of her nature? That's a question we may never fully answer. Goodbye and good night. Make sure to check out and subscribe to our Patreon for behind-the-scenes looks. Link in description.